Hello, hi. How are you today? Together with me, I have a special guest, Miss Jaklin Juanis, our image and professional development consultant. Hi, Jaklin. How are you?
Hello, Jimmy. I'm good, thank you, and thank you for having me tonight.
Thank you, Jaklin. All right. Today's topic in the Leaders Talk channel FB page, we will discussing more towards how we want to harness our resilience through personal growth. All right. So, Miss Jacqueline, maybe you can introduce yourself a little bit, a brief one about yourself. Over to you, Miss Jacqueline.
Thank you, Jimmy, and a good evening, everyone. Those who are watching, thank you so much, and I'm so honored to be in this program by Azmi. Yeah? And to introduce myself briefly, my name is Jaklin Juanis, as you can see on the screen, and I'm a managing director of Professional Advancements Resources, a company that is specifically focusing on corporate training in image, personal branding, and professional development. And I'm also the founder of Asia Image Development Academy, where I provide professional certification education for image and professionals development consultants. And I've been in the industry since 2013 full time. But in training, I've started since 2002 as an in house training specialist, or rather, back then I started as an instructional designer,
Mm-hmm.
and until now I'm still in the learning and development industry. And 70% of my business comes from corporate training. The rest
Mm-hmm.
is on coaching and mentoring. And at the same time, I would like to take this opportunity to also introduce myself as an advocate for social enterprise. At this point of time, I'm the director of learning and development for Athena Empowers, a social enterprise founded by Puan Anja Julia Abu Bakar.
Okay, interesting. Thank you, Jacqueline. All right. All right. We go to the topic now. Hello. We have someone. We have Ira Afandi. Hello, Ira. How are you? All right. Thank you for participating for tonight. All right. Miss Jacqueline, today's topic is very interesting. We are talking about harnessing resilience through personal growth. Yeah. I think it's the right time, the right moment, right timing because we are now facing this so-called economic crisis due to COVID-19. Everybody is on the surviving mood, Uh, so um, so maybe for a start, maybe Miss Jacqueline can give some of the definition what is resilience means.
All right, and totally relevant, definitely, as me, yeah, because of the situation that we are currently in, that a lot of things in our life, we are now sort of like we stop and look around what exactly it means to us. So the same thing as resilient, but if I were to define resilience at this point of time, I would rather give it in specifically, perhaps, to invite everyone to visualize it as a it will be something like bamboo. Resilient is like the bamboo means you see how bamboo is the characteristic of a bamboo when the wind blows, and how it is very flexible, and at the same time the flexibility allows it to not afraid to bend. And although it can bend, but it's still strong, and it's still
Yeah.
strong because when the wind is over, it will then back to its normal form. And that can be considered as the true form of a bamboo. And I think resilience can be described in that way. And it gives us the the form of flexibility,
Mhm.
durability, and also adaptability in
Mhm.
the situation, in the crisis, for
Yeah.
example.
Interesting, Jacqueline. Interesting. So you give some metaphora to it, which is you choose bamboo. Yeah. All right. Interesting. Interesting. So, uh, why do you think is resilience important at this juncture?
All right.
Resilience mean I can summarize in terms of people are able to recover quickly. People can bounce back quickly. So why is it important then,
All
Jack?
right. So I think why resilience is important is because we need to understand that we are in first thing first. We have to
Mm,
understand that all of us are on a journey. All right,
yeah,
a journey that call you call it whatever, but it is at the end of the day, it is a journey in our life, right?
yeah,
So those journey or that journey that you are in at this moment, a journey that you have decided to take, meaning
yeah,
out of decision awareness that you decided to take on the journey, right? So the
yeah,
importance comes from being able to get going despite of hurdles, despite of challenges. When
yeah,
the going, I think everyone knows is that when the going gets tough, the tough get going. And I personally think that
yeah.
that is the only way for each one of us to explore our full potential. So I think that's the reason why resilience is important.
Interesting, interesting. All right. So in other words, it is very important for us to build this resilience characteristic. So building this resilience characteristics, people might know what would be the benefits of it. I want to build something, so what is it in me? So maybe Miss Jacqueline can, further enlighten us on this.
Thank you. I like this question a lot because
Thank you.
as like in my personality, I like to reasons thing. Meaning,
Yeah.
I like to find what's in it for me, or why, what benefits, or rather, what benefits that I see within the decision that I am taking or I'm going to
Mm,
take, right? So
yeah.
I think the benefits of building resilience is really about allowing yourself to form a mold, meaning that that mold will help you to shape how you want yourself to be built, and is
Mm-mm,
also a basis of I think self resilience or self
mm-mm,
reliance, and also self sustainability. What do I mean by that is that it's like when you build your resilience, yeah, it gives you direction the
mm,
direction of how you should be operating, right? And it gives you also or rather clarity around how okay, I give you an example. I think this is clearer to us that building resilience is like an exercise, right?
mm-mm. Yeah.
Exercise, we chose or we decided to do some types of exercise because we want to have certain part of our body to be built. Like for
Yeah.
example, if you choose to strengthen the lower part of your body and you
Mm-mm,
choose lunges, for example, squats, for example,
yeah.
and if you want to, the upper part, maybe you go dumbbell, for example. So
Mm-mm,
meaning when you are building your resilience, you know that those choices that you are doing, or rather that activities that you are doing in order for you to build that give you that resilience will
mm-mm,
help you to be better as a person,
mm-hmm.
and it will give you the muscle that needed for you to go through the journey. Remember just now that building resilience, the,
Yeah.
it's also about you understanding that you are on a journey, right? and
Yeah.
um, and again, the benefits of building resilience is that you know that it is a continuous effort because you're on a
Mm-hmm.
journey, so therefore it has got this element of continuous effort. And
Yeah.
because it is done practically, because building resilience is really about not just on the thinking, but it
Mm,
requires movement, physical movement. It requires
mm,
the whole part of you to be in sync, or rather, how to say, in harmony,
yeah.
to, to go one direction, which is for you to build yourself, becoming tougher,
Yeah.
becoming durable, becoming flexible, just like the bamboo that I mentioned earlier.
Mm,
So because of the continuous effort that you do, it builds some form of habits, right? It builds positive habits that, like, for example, maybe because of your continuous effort on building your resilience, you might have the tendency of looking certain things, like seeing the glass half full,
half full,
instead of half
half empty.
empty. Yeah,
Empty.
exactly. And also about, I noticed, this is, I'm talking from my own experience, that I always believe about, you know having this continuous effort on building myself.
Yeah.
In the session tonight is about building resilience. It
Yeah.
gave me that belief in myself.
Mm,
Okay, like having these habits of trusting myself,
mm,
and therefore that will give me what it that I can understand now, that I have all it takes to build myself to become the better version of myself. So,
interesting.
yeah, because building resilience, again, the words that you put here is building resilience, right?
Yeah.
So building means it has to be an accumulative effort, that it has to be done continuously. So
Yeah.
along the way of building those, bit by bit, yeah, bit by bit of your strengths, that that form your resilience. At the same time, the byproduct of it will be you yourself, you know,
Become a
being
better version.
growing,
Yeah.
to be the best version of yourself. Just like what I mentioned earlier, when you asked about, why is it important, right?
Yeah.
So it's going, going despite of hurdles and challenges. So that will be the benefits of, for me, of
Yeah.
building resilience. Yeah.
Interesting. There will be a lot of benefits if we build this resilience. I like the word when you mention, it will align with your mind and your body together. I mean, parallel.
Right.
Uh, yeah, if you want to build some muscles, so you need to focus on certain parts, and then your mind also need to say yes before you move your body. So
Yeah.
it's more related to the mind, can your mind.
Yeah.
So sometimes we face some challenges in life. This life is not a straight line. So there will be some up and downs in life, which require us to be more patient, more resilient. So some of the people says that, when I face this difficulty, I feel that I want to give up. I don't want to face these challenges, all the crises, challenges. I want just to raise my hands, and I don't want to do it. I don't want to do it anymore. So, in terms of mental toughness, you see, so people are sometimes, being bombarded, or being exposed, with the difficult challenges. Sometimes they feel more stress, sometimes can fall under depression sometimes. So your advice, Miss Jacqueline, what would be the best way for us to improve mental toughness, in terms of mental toughness, so that we are ready to face any challenges ahead? Over to
Uh,
you, Miss Jacqueline.
Thank you. Before I go into the how,
Yeah,
perhaps I'd like to start by sharing a bit of my stories, personal stories. Yeah,
yeah,
some
sure.
of my friends, they know that I was brought up in a very rural area in Sabah. When I
Yeah,
was growing up, the only version or the only language that I know is the Bahasa Melayu Sabah and also Bahasa Dusun, and nothing in English. Yeah. Um,
Okay.
so as I was, well, I mean, I got a chance to further my study here. That was many years back, many
Yeah.
decades ago. Yeah, and I realized I need, well, I mean, to cut the story short, I know that I need to improve. Okay,
Okay.
language is not something that is easy to acquire, right?
Correct.
Why? Because it has got some relation around the perception that if you are doing some mistakes in certain in how to say in the language, or rather in delivering your um, ability, or rather to showcase your ability, and
Mm-hmm.
you tend to get okay, maybe I can put it this way: you tend to be belittled because you are not
Yeah.
able to acquire certain some form of language, right?
Correct.
So back then, I faced a lot of this belittlement, and I'm really most of the time it gives me the, well, it has been quite stressful for me.
Yeah.
Not only stressful, but it's not motivating at all for me
Mm.
to keep on walking, or rather to continue on the journey of learning the language, right?
Yeah.
And but I discovered sort of like ways to
Mm.
how to be mentally tough despite of all those belittlement,
Challenges.
looking at you as lesser than them, or
Yeah.
because of my inability to acquire that certain language, right?
Mm.
So I discovered that how to improve mental toughness in a stressful situation, to face a stressful situation, is that first thing first,
Mm.
accept that you are stressed. Yeah.
Okay.
Not
Accept that.
deny that you are stressed. When you aware that you are stressed, you are sort of like observing your situation from a third party eyes. Meaning,
Mm.
okay, this is Jaklin. Jaklin is now feeling so stressed. Jaklin is now, um, feeling down because there's this gesture around, around the people that she met,
Yeah.
that belittling her. And you have this conversation, well, I had
Yeah.
that conversation, and because of that, it allows me to rationalize my thought. It allows me rationalize the situation. Now, not
Mm.
only rationalizing, but how can I use that
Mm.
feeling that I have at this point of time, or rather the thinking or the mental, um, what do you call that, the rather the difficulties that I was having at that point of time, how can I use
Mm.
it to sort of to push me up and be motivated to continue my
Yeah.
journey of improving my ability of that in that language, that learning that language. Yeah. So I think having the true awareness of the current reality is really
Mm.
important. You are aware, you are stressed,
Mm.
and what are you going to do about it? So
Yeah.
observing your own thinking, I think,
Mm.
it's the most important part. It's like you are the other person, like I mentioned earlier, you are the other person looking at yourself. You observe your thinking. And when you are observing that thinking, you are now able to plan out what's the next action.
Correct.
Meaning, then you are doing an action that is more well informed rather than based on emotional, or rather the emotion that you have at that point of time. Meaning, probably you
Mm.
feel ashamed or embarrassed, or you feel angry. But
Yeah.
if your actions based on that emotions, I don't think that will help you in terms of facing that situation, let alone to give you that
Mm.
mental toughness.
Toughness.
And like for me, even now, I'm, of course, this is life. We are facing a lot of these challenges, and some things are not going, or rather going against the ideal or what you have
Mm.
planned, right? So I always use this technique of having self monologue. Like
yeah,
I have my own conversation, and that's actually one of the ways for you to rationalize and also to find out. All right, find out how can you move on, or rather, how can you build that toughness in you to continue the journey. Because at the end of the day,
yeah.
I think life is all about to keep on walking, to keep on
Moving, yeah,
the journey that you have decided earlier on. And
yeah,
but the key word here is about this decision.
correct.
What is the decision? Is the decision that you're going to take is based on an informed um, choices, or
Yeah,
how is it? So I think that would be one of the ways, or rather, few techniques that you can do. But
yeah,
yeah, don't deny. I think that's the most important part. Don't deny, and be aware of the conversation that you have in yourself, the inner conversation. Yeah.
yeah. Interesting, Miss Jacqueline.
Mhm.
All right. So I think hope those viewer who have seen this hope, the most important part is actually the first step is to accept the fact that we are in a stressful condition, that we need to move on, and we aware of it. But some people are just out of my curiosity, Miss Jacqueline, some of the people, they know the fact they are stressed, they are depressed, but they live in denial. They don't want to accept these facts. They become more perfectionist to themselves, and then end up they cannot cope with the pressure.
Mm.
So hopefully those people can accept the fact, embrace that you are facing this situation and move on. Yeah, there are a few techniques that Miss Jacqueline have mentioned just now: self talk, self talk, self monologue, and then one of the ways, so that we are aware on our conscious and subconscious mind. Yeah, Miss Jacqueline.
Yes.
All right, my next question to you, Miss Jacqueline. You know, once people are accepting themselves, they are facing this kind of situation, this kind of problem, this kind of crisis. They accept the fact that, so sometimes they want to move forward. When they want to move forward, sometimes there are certain rejection. It can be rejection in terms of their colleague, rejection with the friends, maybe rejection from the customer, for example, because we want to build that so-called mental toughness or resilience quality. So they're afraid of fear of rejection. People, say example, a customer, we want, if the salesman want to approach the customer, they're afraid that customer will say no to him or her. So because of that, they don't make a move. So maybe Miss Jacqueline, you have some advice to them. I mean, in terms of fear of rejection. Yeah,
Yeah, as I was thinking around this, as I was listening to you, first
yeah,
thing first, I think we individually, we need to acquire this thought, or rather, also it can be a technique about being able to empathize.
empathize.
Empathize means putting yourself in the shoes of the other person. Now, what do I mean by that? It's not sympathizing, right? It's not sympathizing, but rather to understand that each one of us, we are different.
Mm-mm.
Although we might be the same physically. I mean, yeah, at least some people, they say they look like the same, right? But internally we are different. And also, let alone if it's in the circumstances when you are serving a customer, for example,
Yeah,
um, the other party or the customer, he or she has her own his own ideal thought around specific situation, or if it's services or if it's product. So they have their own thinking around that. So that's what I
mm-mm.
meant by acquiring, or rather prioritizing, the ability to empathize. When you are in that situation where you're able to empathize, so you are not affected by the reaction or the response from the other person, because you know they have their reason to do that. right?
yeah,
And talking about rejection, just to rationalize or rather putting the obvious here, that
mm-mm,
everyone knows that rejection is part of life. Why?
yeah,
Because exactly when we relate to, everyone has got their ideal situation on certain things. Although you
yeah,
don't see it, you are trying to penetrate that ideal situation that they have. It might need a lot more work to do, or
yeah,
homework, or there are many more things for you to burst into that, or to rather to burst that bubble of ideal in
yeah,
them, right? That they
yeah,
perceive ideal. And okay, I like the word perceive, because
yeah,
they have their own perceived ideal and you have your own perceived ideal on certain things.
correct, correct,
And if it's not aligned, and that's
yeah,
where then the rejection will happen. So
correct,
talking about that, rejection is part of life, definitely everyone knows it, I think. And
yeah,
then why do we have to be fearful of rejection? Because
yeah,
it's already, it's like it's given in our life, right?
yeah,
So the ideal, that will be the ideal thinking, definitely. And maybe if this can be easier if you are fully conscious about the situation, that you need to be empathizing, and
mm-mm,
that, so that you are not fearful of rejection. When rejection
yeah,
comes, then you feel like, okay, there's a reason behind this.
yeah,
uh, so the reason might be something that I can extract, and I
yeah,
can then improve myself. Well, okay, maybe this is something that I can share, because in my profession as an image consultant, I I face this a lot. When
mm-mm,
the desire to transform themselves,
mm-mm,
because of the job requirement or the new position that require them to have a certain presence,
yeah,
but they appear sort of like they are having that fear to transform, because they are afraid that, their friends are not,
correct,
accepting them. They are not in the, they are no longer in harmony with the perceived ideal, um,
positive thought, yeah,
in the current situation with friends.
yeah,
Or the worst thing is that maybe my spouse won't be able to accept me in this way, right?
yeah,
But I don't doubt, or rather I don't discount that situation. It's a bit mind-boggling for everyone, for
yeah,
most of us, especially if you want to transform. But
yeah,
again, you won't know that if you are not faith. Well, you won't know that until you experience your transformation, until you experience approaching someone,
yeah,
and then only whether you know that you are getting the rejection or not. So
yeah,
I think I like it when you ask this question, because putting everything into place, that
yeah,
you know whatever you do, there will be always something that is not compatible. So because of
yeah,
that situation, so things will, there's some form of rejection, that it can be literally, or it can be
yeah,
on expression, or
correct,
yeah, yes.
correct. Thank you, sharing. Good, good answers.
And
I remember.
sorry,
Yeah.
I like to, because I it was on top of my mind just now, but it's actually the secret. Yeah, the
Mm-mm,
secret of rejection is basically one of the secrets for you, or rather the best secret that you can use as how you can or how you can be, how do you say, be better the next round, right?
correct,
So that will
correct.
be the motivation that we all can, hold on to when you're
You're right.
facing rejection. Yeah, sorry for that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
no problem. Because I really I try to understand. Say example in relationship. If you try out something with probably with boyfriend and girlfriend, this is more on relationship. If let's say there will be a rejection, means we need to mesh with the partners, with our potential partners. If we are serious on that relationship, so we need to do some matching, some sort of homework because we got different perspective. So I like the word when you mention about the different, perceive ideas. You see, so
Mm.
empathy, stepping into other people's shoes and try to understand them better because they see a different angle and we see a different angle. So we want to have that. We want to get these so-called meeting points, in line together. So rejection is part of parcel of life. It's a normal life. Imagine if you do business. Let's talk about business. And then, say example, we do business. Every proposal that we submit, everything that we produce, customer are easily accept that something wrong somewhere. We don't know why
Yes.
is it happening like that. People are only accepting our ideas, accepting our proposal. But with this rejection, it can also give us some self-reflection. What else that we can do better to suit customer interests?
Yeah.
So interesting.
I like.
Um,
Yeah.
Thank you, thank you. And then I remember one story of Michael Jordan is a basketball player, number one basketball player. Before he succeeded to that positions, he has made a lot, thousand of shots to throw a ball and to win a game. So through exercise, practice, is he not easily give up. He more resilience to the game and more focus on the game. Finally, he become one of the top player for basketball, Michael Jordan. So another story of Muhammad Ali is a legend boxer. Before he become a winner, he has a lot of failure. Sometimes he have he need to go down and then some sort of defeated kind of game, but he accepted, he embraced it, and then he improved on the boxing skill until he become a winner. So
Exactly.
yeah, these are the story probably I can share towards the rejection. All right.
Yes.
So Miss Jacqueline, on the other question, when we talk about resilience, normally we will relate to energy. People with energy, better energy, can face resilience better, can face challenges better. But those people with low energy, they have some difficulties to sustain and to face the challenges. So we are human. Just accept the fact we are not perfect. We have our limitation in terms of energy level. We have a limitation in terms of time. So we have limitation on certain resources. So as a leader, to encourage our team members, to encourage ourselves to move forward, how best that we can conserve our own energy to make sure we can face and harness resilience to the next level to elevate the resilience parts. Over to you, Miss Jacqueline.
Right. Yeah, this is really relatable, right?
Yeah.
Um, a lot of time we have this um, endless ideas, so endless ability to think what's the best for us. But at the end of the day, it will come back to the physical part of us as a mere mortal. that, that means that we have a limited, or rather, a source of a limited form of reservoir of energy, right? So if it's that the case, we then need to understand, right, what, or rather, where does, or I can put that as exhaustion. Why
Mm,
do we feel exhausted? Right, because then we now know, if we understand why do we feel exhausted, then we know to avoid that, what are the things that we need to avoid in order for us to conserve energy, right?
mm,
But before I go into that, I think a lot of time when we are on our journey to in our life to achieve what we want to acquire, or rather achievement for our business or our personal life, I think willingness to be teachable is really important.
mhm,
Meaning, when you are teachable, you are able to learn, sort of like the trick of the trade, and that's one of the ways for you to be able to conserve your energy, rather than going, oh, in other words, is that this is the shortcut lah, right? The shortcut
mm,
for you, so that you don't have to use so much of energy. So,
mm,
um, going through. the specific level of understanding in certain or competencies in certain things. So, but again, coming back to when I say about energy exhaustion, because I think it comes from you are doing things without internalizing its true meaning and purpose. Meaning
Mm,
you are just doing it because of superficial reasons, such as you are forced by circumstances, which
mm,
even so with if you stop and analyze, you can always find meaning around it. In whatever you do, if you stop and observe, I think a lot of this requires a lot of internalization. You
mm,
then find when you find meanings, when you find the purpose in what you do, I think that will help you to be more energetic or to conserve, sort of like conserve the energy, because you are now be very focused that okay, this is the things that I want to create because it's much more meaningful for me, rather than
yeah.
you wasting so much of time, energy, effort doing other things that you are not so much into its meaning and purpose. And
Mm,
number two is I think energy exhaustion is also coming from the source of it will be a lot of, without you realizing, you actually um, stretching yourself too much, or in other words,
mm,
it's like spreading yourself too thin, right?
yeah.
Forgetting that you are again a mere mortal, that you need to take five once in a while, and
Yeah.
therefore find ways to do mental and physical wellness activities,
Mm,
right? Because at the end of the day, although you are so much of into um, moving towards the direction that you want, but at the end of the day, again, coming back that you need to have some form of um, mental
that
and
time.
physical exercise, so that so that you can, you can be, you can charge, sort of like recharge
Yeah.
your battery.
Take a
And
break. Take a break.
you have to take find your own ways to do it, maybe with the family, or going for exercise. Like for me, I go exercise so that
Mm-hmm.
I can have, because energy here comes a lot of it, although
Yeah.
it comes from the physical. But I don't know whether if you agree with me, a lot of this you feel exhausted because too much of things going on around your brain, around around your head, or rather,
Yeah.
it's the mental itself is exhausted, right?
Yeah.
And the body will then, you know, in agreement with your mental. But if your mental is, or if your mind, it's always awake, always
Mm,
energetic, and that will
yeah.
actually also revive some form of energy around your body, right? And
Mm,
I think another thing about why we are exhausted is that sometimes we are not in a position, or rather, we don't want to put ourselves in a position that you are not capable of doing certain things, right? Meaning that there may be certain things that you are still in on your journey of acquiring certain level of competencies, and just
mm,
have a compassion of yourself, that you
mm,
are still a work in progress, and therefore you are sort of like sliding along the journey of your life, and at the same time you are building up that skills or competencies that you need. But
mm,
I experience this myself when I am, I've had this experience of having too much of expectation on myself, and
mm,
I'm not yet, I wasn't yet I wasn't capable of doing that. And I got I experienced that form of frustration. And
mm,
when I was frustrated, that gives me, that eat up my energy,
mm,
myself, and
yeah.
that gives me that, mental exhaustion. And so because of that, so I think again and again, if you ask me about how to conserve your energy better, find or identify, please identify. I think let all let's identify, let's identify the source of what makes your energy leaking.
Mm. Okay, interesting. All right. Thank you, Miss Jacqueline. I like when you mention we need to identify our purpose, our meaning in life, and then you also mentioned we need to reserve our energy based on is it priorities in life, what you want in life. So my probably my question to you, Miss Jacqueline, how we want to find our purpose in life?
Right.
Yeah,
I like that a lot. Now, for me, if I were to, I think this is, I'm not sure whether this is can be cliche, but for me to find your purpose is really about understanding what's your big why.
big why, yeah,
Yeah, well, I mean, maybe this is something new for most of us, but
yeah.
the big why comes from, for me, I like, for me, I always put it in a very simple form for me to digest. So my big why is something that makes me happier, right? Happier means that I have a reason to wake up in the morning, and right from the moment I get up from my bed, I'm already, fully energized because I know that I am driven by this, um, the things that make me happy,
I
right?
see.
Now, happy here is not, well, I mean, let me also perhaps justify what do I meant by happier me. It's not only just, the happy moments where you laugh and you feel relaxed, but the
Mm,
happier me here means that I I know that I am useful, I have purpose, or rather, I have reason of doing certain things. So that gives me the purpose of my life, and that can be the if I can say the true north of my daily activities. So I think that's how I do it. Mm.
mm,
And okay, another thing
interesting.
about finding your purpose is,
Mm.
for me, what's what would you want to be remembered when you are gone? Yeah,
Legacy.
it can
What
be
are the legacy?
legacy. It can, yeah, yeah. You're right. Yeah, like legacy, and when you're gone, and people, I mean, those one or two people that remember your name, what do they associate you with?
Yeah,
So for me, that's how I find my purpose.
interesting. You don't mind, Miss Jacqueline, to share what is your big why, Miss Jacqueline?
Yeah,
Yeah.
thank you so much. It took me quite some time to be clear about my big why, and then there's one time when something happened in my life that
Mm,
I discovered that that's actually the real big why for me is to be useful to the community that I am in.
mm,
Useful in a sense that I can impart certain, or rather not impart, but instilling some form of realization, awareness, or hopefully some kind of awakening for them
yeah,
that they are capable of doing whatever they think that they want to do in life.
yeah,
Because that's why all the activities that I've been doing, in fact, the subject matter that I have decided to focus on, it's
yeah,
about building your or rather to empower yourself, uh, and giving you the realization, again, I would like to repeat this, that you are actually,
mm,
you can do more than what you think you are.
yeah.
So for
Interesting.
me, it's that's my big why. And okay,
Interesting.
maybe I can share how this big why of mine has been the guiding principle, or rather,
Mm,
yeah, in my daily actions. During
yeah,
this COVID-19 pandemic, definitely
yeah,
nobody is able to, or rather was able to go out and do your own normal stuff, right?
yeah.
And I was thinking, how can I what can I do differently in order
Mm,
for me to still continue to be able to continue to add values to others. And again, just now I mentioned I want to be useful,
yeah.
useful for
Yes.
the community that I am in, right?
Yeah.
So I said, okay, what do I have? What resources do I have? Although I am now confined in the house, what
yeah,
resources do I have? And I was thinking, okay, I'm always in front of computer and I have my internet and I have my social media. So how
mm,
can I fully use this? So because of that, I've actually decided to do a series like this. Why I like when someone invite me something a session like this, because it reminds me of this is actually one of the venue where we can impart certain realization,
yeah,
certain awareness in others, right? So I have this a talk show as well. In fact, we have reached the 40th episode today, and
interesting.
yeah, what I mean is that what I'm trying to say is that because of the big why, I want to keep on, you know, contributing, making myself
Mm,
useful. So I decided to do that. And sometimes when things are not that motivating, sometimes, yeah, around the house or around
yeah,
the news, right? And then my mind will go back to the thinking that, hey, what's your big why? Despite of all those, you can do training this time around. Maybe project
yeah,
is on hold. And then I said, hey, my big why is I can still you know, keep on to continue imparting adding values. So therefore I decided to just do that
yeah,
until now, basically. So yeah, what I'm trying to say here is that it's really around realization. What how do you want to be, how do you
yeah,
want to be, or what do you want to be, or what do you want to do,
yeah,
that making you more happier.
yeah. Thank you, Jacqueline. You find your big why, yeah, to move forward. All right. Interesting. Okay, the pursuit of resilience. People want to be resilient. People want to quickly bounce back and quickly recover from crisis or disruption in any facet of life. Like can be in business, in relationship, in personal life. They want to be resilient. Sometimes, they want to, bounce back faster. But along the way, um, sometimes this second voice of ourselves telling ourselves that, hey, me, you cannot do this lah. No one tell, but ourselves telling ourselves, hey, you cannot go through this as me. Please you turn do other things. You see, so this second voice become our own enemy inside us. So maybe my question to you, Miss Jacqueline, how to manage our second voice is our main
Yeah,
enemy.
exactly right. We all, I think this radio, or you call this second voice, for me is like radio behind me, you know, like this, there's
Yeah,
this radio playing again and again, right? And I think it's not something new to all of us. It's just that the volume might be, for some people, might be louder, and certain people are a bit slower or lower. Yeah,
yeah,
yeah. And honestly, at the end of the day, you are in control of the volume, right?
interesting.
How? Okay. Why do I mean by you are in control of the volume of the voice? Is that because because you created it, nobody else, like exactly like Chipmi mentioned just now, you created it yourself. So if
Mm-mm.
you created it, meaning that you are in control of switching it on or switching it off, or if you can't switch it off, in reality, I agree. When you say I can't switch it off, I agree, but you can lower the volume down, definitely.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a conscious effort, it's a conscious choice, right? And how do you do that? It's not just like how we wish that we see a button, or rather a console that we can, you know, lower down or increase, right? But we don't have that. So, but we can have this, the big why. Actually, I want to relate to that. The big
Mm-mm.
why as your console in terms of whether to switch it on or switch it off, right?
Yeah.
But for me, right, I mean, I can tell from my experience, it's actually quite tiring to entertain that voice. So you ask
Okay.
about conserving energy. I think this
Mm-mm.
is one of the ways that we can do to switch it down or switch it off if you can. it's actually, it's not impossible. It is possible, right? It is
Possible.
possible to switch it off because you can always put your focus on your big why.
Mm,
And when you put your focus on your big why, it will automatically switch off. That will be
mm,
the very deep internal way of managing it.
mm.
The easiest for me is that you have a support group.
Support group. Yeah.
I have a support group where there are like five of us. So any inner voice that, okay, good thing about having a okay, sorry. Before you have a support group, you know that those people that in the group has got, everyone has got the same ways when it comes to
Mm,
building each other up, right?
yeah.
So in this support group that I have is that we, whatever negative talk or whatever that I feel or we feel that it will not help us to grow, we
Mm,
all put it there and get everyone to look, hey, today I feel I am down and I'm having this STUPID thought around. Yeah, so we'll tell that and everyone will chip in and to encourage you. And it's the same as for gratitude. So
mm,
most of the time, because of the support group, we now have this habit of when we are so excited of certain things, like be grateful about certain things, we put it there. And when we feel that we are eating ourselves up by having negative thought, we put it there. But lesson now, because I
yeah.
noticed that a lot of it is actually because of the gratitude. Yeah, gratitude sharing.
Mm.
I feel like lesser and lesser of those. So you are capable of stopping or rather switching off your second voice because it created by you. That's the shortcut.
Interesting, Miss Jacqueline. Interesting. I try to relate to my personal experience when I decided to save money. So when I decided to save money, when I walk to the shopping complex, when there is a big sign of 70% sales, for example, I have, is the temptation is irresistible. I
Yeah.
just okay, 70%. Why not just walk in and see? But I have that mind. You see, I need to save money, so I try to feel it and try to just touch the things, and then I feel, oh, not bad. The fabric is good. This blazer is good. With the price is of 70% off tangent. I mean, as human being, the second voice, say that ask me this time only 70%. Why not spending now? What are you waiting for? It's a good deal, man. So just grab it. So this second voice is very difficult to control, but I take your note, I take your advice, Miss Jacqueline. Maybe we can try to minimize the volume and probably to switch it off. Hopefully, we can do that together. Yeah. All right. I have a
I
question
think,
now. Yeah. Sorry.
yeah, I think sorry, coming from your sharing just now, it's easier
Yeah.
said than done. But I
Correct.
think stop the thinking and stop. Meaning stop the thinking around, I want to buy that, it's 70, but stop that and completely make it stop. And
Mm,
okay, this is maybe a bit like a bruff, a kind of a bruff technique, or rather drastic things that you need to do. But I can relate to your explanation just now. It's just about, okay, no need to think about going or
mm,
even look at the 70% sign. It's just stop. So because I am, there's some form of, if I am not smoothly enough wanting to go in, meaning there's something that is not right, so rather I better
mm.
stop. So I think it's that's the shortcut.
Thank you, Miss Jacqueline. Thank you. Interesting. All right. We have a question from Ira. Let me read the questions.
Nice.
Ira Fandi asks, how do we sustain the excitement in doing our work? Resilience can be done, but at the same time, how to find the joy in what we are doing continuously? Second question, how do we find a good support system at work if we feel unsafe with our issues being used as a witness? Wow, two
Okay.
questions.
I
First,
like that question. Thank you so much,
thank you
Ira.
so much.
Ira Akanti, yeah?
Yeah,
Right. It looks like I
maybe.
have
Yeah.
met her before. Have I?
Yes, yes. Think so.
Yeah.
Yes, yes.
All right. Okay, let me answer the first question. Yeah. How
Mm,
do we sustain the excitement in doing our work? Okay.
yeah.
Now, excitement comes from a decision to be excited.
Decision, is
Because
it?
our
Go back to
life,
decision.
yeah, our life is full of choices,
Correct.
right? And when we know that excitement or feeling excited is something that you can create or
Yeah,
you can choose,
yeah.
then it can be established in you or it can be created, right?
Mm,
Now, okay, there's this part of in my program that the environment that you are in, you might not have the full control on, but what
mm,
you can control on is the perception about the environment. So if you think the environment might be not so exciting,
mm,
but if you choose to or rather if you choose to think that it can be exciting, it can be exciting,
yeah.
right?
Decision.
So
Yeah.
yeah. So she said here that resilience can be done, but at the same time, how to find the joy in what we are doing continuously. It's all for me. If you ask me, the shortcut is you having the full understanding that you are in charge of
Yeah.
what you can be in charge, meaning you are in charge of choosing what type of thought, or rather the flow of thought that will much more that gives you the more empowering
Mm,
thought, and that will then lead to a perception towards the environment that you are in. Because at the end of the
mm,
day, if your perception is controlled by the surrounding that you have no control on, then
mm,
you are not empowered. What I meant by this is that I give you an example. If in your working situation full of not so motivating colleague, for example,
mm,
or rather there are a lot of this perhaps inconsistency in terms of inconsistency in terms of encouragement. Okay, put it
mm,
in simply,
mm.
yeah. So if you focus on that, definitely your workplace will not be exciting, right?
Yeah.
But if you notice that you can choose your own thought, so you choose it to be, hey, it is perhaps this is the environment I have no control on. How can I change my perception
Maintain
into
control.
yeah, making it more exciting? Oh, sorry, thinking of it more exciting, and therefore your action
Mm,
can lead aligning to the thought that you can make it exciting. Yeah.
just
So I don't know. I might be going around the bush here, but what I'm trying to say here is really around you have the choice.
the
Okay,
choice. Yeah.
the power is in you,
Yeah.
and the only person that have control on that is you yourself because it belongs to you,
Yeah.
right? And she put it on capital letters here continuously. I love that. Yeah, continuously. Now, first
Yeah.
thing first, aware the fact that we have our ups and downs. Even every single second, we have that ups and downs when it comes to emotions. When it
Correct.
comes to, in fact, how the surrounding is happening around us, right?
Yeah.
So, if you choose to be continuously motivated, exciting, yeah, you feel excited, then
Mm,
that's how it is.
yeah.
So all revolves around you choosing what's the best for
Yeah.
you. Easier said than done, but I tell you, um, if you are really conscious around it and support that with your big why, I think that can be done. That
Yeah.
can be done, and I can say this confidently because this is what I've been doing for the past, I think, 4 months, 3 months already. Yeah, if
Mm,
not, I would have been a person that is so I can be the person that so down because our business was on halt. Yeah? It was literally on stop for
Yeah.
3 months, because what we do in training is that we do face-to-face training, and it requires people together,
Yeah.
right? So it's not allowed. So it wasn't allowed.
Yeah.
So yeah. So but then, like I mentioned earlier, it's the conscious effort that me choosing what's the best for me at that particular time. So the next
Yeah.
question is that how do we find a good support system at work if we feel unsafe without issues being used as a weakness? Ah, right. I
Yeah.
like this question. I got this a lot. Now,
Mm.
a lot of time, like I mentioned just now, just be aware the people that you choose to be a support system. Most
Correct.
of the time, these people might be out of your workplace, yeah,
Yeah.
not in your circle of um, how do you say, your circle of influence,
Yeah.
meaning whatever you do will give some form of influence to the organization. So that might be a bit giving you that like you mentioned here, it might be used as a weakness, for example. So I will rather, the first thing in mind is that have a support group that consists of, for me, people that you consider as neutral.
Neutral. Yeah.
Yeah, that's first thing first, because we don't, yeah, well, there are many more possibilities that will happen if it's, around your circle of influence, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Unless everyone is truly at par when it comes to the commitment around supporting you, then it's all right to have your colleague. But if it's
Mm-mm.
not, then I'm just afraid again the situation that it won't be a fully functional support group, because there's a fear around it, that because this person is my colleague, so I can't be
Yeah.
truthful enough, for example. So it won't be an effective support group then. So my
Correct.
recommendation is find someone or a group of people that might have, in a neutral situation. There's no
Correct.
vested interest in putting you or making you down or as such. Yeah.
Interesting. Interesting. Maybe I can add. Thank you, Jacqueline, for the answer, and thank you, Shahira, for the question. Very interesting questions. I always, practice positive, using positive thinking. Using positive thinking, how to have positive thinking is to have positive language. The words that we use every day, positive language that we use, it can triggers our so-called our conscious and subconscious mind to align with our big why, as you mentioned, Miss Jacqueline. So, yeah, it's not easy, but we need to practice, positive thinking. Even we are having this so-called crisis, or we have this problem in office, for our colleagues, for example, in office. So, um, this is how we want to train our mind to have this positive thinking, and of course, attitude that we want to choose. We want to choose the right attitude, and most importantly, I always encourage people, give your so-called constructive feedbacks. So some people want to give destructive feedback, which I don't allow it to happen. So I always mention to my team, and also mention to my friends, if you want to give feedbacks, please give constructive feedbacks so that we can improve things better. So yeah, so by choosing, I agree with Ms. Jacqueline, by choosing the right support system, right people in the support system, which is neutral, not biased, is also critical and important for us to move forward and building our resilience quality. All right, thank you, Shahira. Thank you, Miss Jacqueline. All right, maybe already 10:04. Maybe I can take another final question before we end, Miss Jacqueline. All right. Okay. Some people says that to harness your resilience qualities, you need to feel the struggle. The bigger the struggle, the bigger is your resilience. So, your take on this, Miss Jacqueline?
100% agree, or if I can say 1000% agree. Um, yeah, that's why I can answer this based on my personal experience. That's why
Mm,
I'm all out when it comes to challenges. I like to challenge myself because, in fact,
mm,
I think people that are closer to me, they are aware that I kind of like addicted to adrenaline rush because the
mm,
carrot hanging in front of me is the realization later that hey, I've done that, and it's
mm,
so empowering. Um, because for me, resilience is about experiencing being right in the middle of turbulence,
mm.
or if you notice, if
Struggle,
it's
yeah,
the vortex, yeah, that
yeah,
vortex of pains. That's why I said the adrenaline rush when you are right in the middle of the turbulence, right? That's
yeah,
the that's when you will discover how strong, what are you made of, really. So until
mm,
you're in that like I mentioned just now, the situation which the most painful for you, then you will understand yourself better. And okay, not only understanding yourself better, but when you manage to get out of those, and
mm,
you are then able to look back and say, hey, I've done that. And
yeah,
because the process of you going out, those experiences, those actually precious, or rather crucial, to build or to harness your resilience. That's the only way you can harness resilience. You, if it's everything good, I think it might be something else. I'm not sure. Maybe
you're living in the
the word,
paradise.
yeah, the words resilience might not be exist, right?
Yeah,
So okay. So struggles bring another thing about struggles is that struggles brings us our personalized story,
yeah,
right? A lot of time when we talk about personal branding, yeah, we can do personal branding through how we present yourself, how do you be appearing in front of people. But
mm,
there's also part of personal branding when you are very truthful to yourself.
yeah,
You have certain qualities or distinct qualities that glaringly impacting others, and that
mm,
is much more powerful in terms of building your personal stories, and that will build your personal brand,
yeah,
right? And how can you obtain those? Only one way of doing it, by going through that vortex of pain,
yeah,
being right in the middle of stories which empowering enough for others to hear about. So and I would like to come back with this question. I would like to come back the earlier example that I mentioned about resilience is kind of like a mold, like
yeah,
molding you, right?
yeah,
And not only molding you in terms of the way you think, you're thinking, how you think, or your inclination in terms of, you know, looking at certain things, but it has got this great influence on how you see the world as a
mm,
whole. So, and that's
yeah,
very important,
yeah.
at least from my perspective. Yeah.
Thank you, Miss Jacqueline Juanis, for your time, our image and professional development consultant. Thank you for your sharing your advice to us. This is a very fruitful session. Thank you again, Miss Jacqueline, for your time tonight.
Yeah, thank you so much, Chimi, and also thank you so much for Leaders Talk. And I guess also would like to convey my gratitude for this opportunity. Yeah,
Oh, pleasure.
yeah, thank you so much.
Thank you, Miss Jacqueline. See you again. Thank you. Oh, bravo, Jamie. Nice sharing, Miss Jacqueline from Mr. Paul Chua. Interesting,
Thank
interesting.
you. Thank
All
you
right, till we
all.
meet again. Take care, Miss Jacqueline.
Thank
Bye
you,
bye.
and good night. Bye, everyone.
Bye bye, everyone. Good night.